Welcome to the Rotary Club of Martinsburg podcast, where service meets community. I'm your host, Kevin Brackens, and I'm going to connect you with the people, stories, and projects that are making a difference here in West Virginia and beyond. At the Rotary Club of Martinsburg, we believe in service above self. Each week, we'll dive into conversations with local leaders, volunteers, and change makers who are driving positive change in our community. From community initiatives to global efforts, we're here to inform, inspire, and engage. This conversation is made possible by Brackens Painting. Brackens Painting is the region's best residential and commercial painting company. When schedule and quality count on Brackens. We've got you covered. Chris, welcome to the conversation.
Thank you. Thank you for having me today.
Just with every conversation, we start with background. So tell me about where you're from, where you grew up, what you do professionally, family, anything.
Well, I grew up right here in Martinsburg, West Virginia. I've lived all over the Eastern Panhandle, I should say, from, Berkeley, Morgan County, or Berkeley and Jefferson counties, and lived in just about every city in Martinsburg, or in the Berkeley County, Jefferson County area.
Okay. So what do you do professionally?
So I'm Director of Resource Development at Panhandle Home Health. I've been there 17 years almost.
What does resource development mean?
That's a fundraising position for Panhandle Home Health. So I not only market the organization because they're a nonprofit, but I also raise funds for them and friends for the organization so that people know about Panhandle. Not only from a standpoint of knowing about it when you need it for your family as a resource, but that we can find the resources financially that we need to be successful as a nonprofit home health agency.
Do you want to give us a 10-cent tour of what that organization does?
Yes, I'd love to, because my family has benefited from the services of Panhandle Home Health, and it actually became the reason why I went to work there. I had always been in the healthcare industry for 23 years at City Hospital. And when I came to home health, I came as a development director, but I came knowing all about the services that were provided, and those were skilled services that are offered to individuals at home. So nursing, physical therapy, occupational speech. We have certified home health aides that go in to help with the personal care. And social workers, registered dietitian, anything that you need as a resource to recuperate or recover at home, we can provide to you in the home.
I understand the services, but how do you know if you're a candidate for those services?
Well, most of the time the physician will make a referral, but the patients can also refer themselves. And if you're homebound and not able to get out of your home easily, and you have a medical condition, you can request services for home health. And most of the time those patients are maybe leaving a hospital, because people are leaving hospitals earlier and earlier. They don't stay as long as they used to. And sometimes they need additional care after they come home. So the physician usually makes a referral.
I see. A buddy of mine had reconstructive knee surgery.
Yes.
And it was bad, like a second one on the same leg. Is he somebody who would reach out even if he wasn't referred by a physician, or can he ask the physician for that sort of thing?
He can ask the physician for that. He can also reach out to us, and then we contact the physician. Mm-hmm. But yes, we have a I'd say hips, knees. A lot of people, we have a one-day program that as soon as those patients are coming out of surgery and going home, most of the time they're going home same-day surgery.
Same day, right.
Our staff are coming in to see them the same day of surgery as soon as they're discharged and home.
I remember a presentation you gave, and it kind of painted that picture. Like, I know my friend probably struggled getting out of his car after he was driven home because his legs all straight and acting, like in probably a brace or something. And then he has to get up a few steps and then get to his living room that he's already set up as a recovery nest.
Right.
I figured that was a service. I even recommended that he reach out to you guys. I don't think he needed to because he had some good support. But I figured that was a circumstance that would warrant that, right?
Right. And sometimes the physical therapist is there to meet them when they're getting out of the car, if they do have steps to traverse, or they need to have occupational safety to make sure that their home is safe when they come in. There aren't any slips or falls, rugs, for instance. But yeah, that's a service that we provide. And, a lot of times people do need that, even on a short-term basis. Maybe it's for a week. There are people, of course, that that they don't have those people to assist them when they come home. So they need additional services, and we provide those. We also become the eyes and ears for the doctor after following a surgery like that. Think about it, because most of the time, if they're having a total knee or total hip, they also have a wound. They have an incision. And so that's where nursing comes into play.
Well, okay. So let's skip over to the Rotary thing. The Rotary part of the conversation. So when did you first hear about Rotary, and what inspired you to join?
Oh, wow. I've known about Rotary probably since starting my career. I worked in a healthcare setting, and the administrator at the hospital, and I think probably some of the other people in the hospital, were Rotarians. What I recall was my administrator leaving at noon to go to a Rotary meeting, and he was part of the noon Rotary Club that I'm part of now.
Wow. And
so I knew about it then. I knew what Rotary meant, what they did in the community. So it was always of interest to me, but I wasn't in a position to be in Rotary at that point. It was later in my career.
Do you know what year that was approximately?
Oh my goodness. I'm going to tell my age now. I've worked for 40 years, so it was probably in the
early
at least 30 years ago.
Yeah, 90s-ish.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And there were women in Rotary that I looked up to as mentors. And when I came back, actually I didn't join Rotary until I came to work for Panhandle Home Health in a director's role. And so I joined Rotary in January of 2014. And one of my mentors was Joanne Wadsworth. And she sponsored me into Rotary.
Is she no longer a member, or?
No, she is a member, but she's a retired financial advisor from Truist.
I don't think
Bank.
I've met her yet.
And I think she's just really enjoying retirement. And I don't see her at Rotary as often.
Okay. So when you think about being a Rotarian, what are some traits that you think make a good Rotarian?
Wow. I think it's those people that get involved, that...
You can look at your notes. You're the first. You're my first prepared person on the podcast.
Well, I always have to think about these things a little bit, because I think of that person, a Rotarian, as someone who has integrity. They have service as part of their core. That they're someone who wants to take a leadership position, someone who you can develop a friendship with or fellowship. I think of those things when I think of Rotary. Mm-hmm. And
what I think of?
I also think of diversity, because you have all types of people that join Rotary for different reasons. But for me, it was a service. It was more about service and the service that Rotary provided in our community. How about you?
I like to feel productive. So, and I also understand my bandwidth. Like, what do I actually have available for time and to be involved? I remember at Charlestown Rotary, I didn't, at the time, my business was in a point of flux where maybe I could make lunch, listen to what's going on, listen to the presentation, but I wasn't able to go and volunteer. But it was very easy for me to send a guy with a truck if they were cleaning the Humane Society, or if they were repainting the bathrooms at the pool, at day of caring kind of stuff. There were a lot of those sort of projects. Maybe I couldn't be there to volunteer, but I know I sent 40 rolls of paper towels and rags and like 30 gallons of bleach. I'm like, if you got cleaning to get done, hopefully this lasts a while. That kind of thing.
Right.
And my contributions at that time was, I understood my bandwidth and I didn't want to overcommit myself, but that was, felt good to give back when needed. And then, again, in that phase of my first 2 years in Rotary, it was more about supporting by bidding on silent auction stuff at events, or at that time I was not in a position to be a sponsor of events. And then I also helped put together a sort of a fun run 5K, which tapped into my strengths.
Right.
Prior to COVID, we had that, I think, 3 times. And once COVID hit, I just didn't do well with the whole screen time, social lunches or whatever. So I just dropped off because I feel like what I was getting the most at that time was being in the community, just being around good people and having a great feeling after lunch.
Right.
Fast forward to joining the Martinsburg club. Now I've got a little more means. I like to help make the bigger events successful. Apparently I'm on a committee now with the gala, which it's more official than I'm willing to be.
Yeah.
But I don't mind making about every other meeting and sort of contributing with event management expertise and suggestions. That event is run by the ladies for the most part because it's a glamorous, leveled up sort of event, black tie scenario or black tie option sort of event. I like being a part of it. I like sponsoring it. And I know on the event day, my true contribution, my true, what's the word I'm looking for here? My true involvement is actually
logistics.
It's almost like non-speaking MC role, because Tracy and Michelle get railroaded by people. Like everybody, oh hey, let's talk, let's get pictures, it's a fun event, and they're in no position to be running the event. Does that make sense?
Well, I think so. We have that a lot in common.
Yeah.
And when I came into Rotary, I came in and I was just taking stock is what I call it. And so one of the ladies there, Barbara Bradley, I probably had this look like, well, I don't know what you're asking me to do. But she said, would you just get greeters for us? Because we always have a Rotary greeter, someone to make you feel welcome when you come in the door. Mm-hmm. And so I started out in that capacity. And that's how I got to know every Rotarian in the room. And I joined in January of 2014, and very quickly, Pam Wagner, our now district governor, said to me, would you be my program chair? I'm going through the chairs. I'm going to be president. Would you be my program chair? I had no idea what that meant.
That's a pretty big lift.
And I said, well, what's involved? Oh, you just have to get a committee together and get people to come in as program people. So we're like, well, Pam, I think I can help with that. Well, little did I know that was going to lead to becoming president of the club.
You were president also?
I was president of the club in 2014, 2015.
In your first year?
I came in 2010.
10, okay, yeah.
Within 4 years, I was president of the club.
I'll be darned.
I was like, oh my gosh, you're kidding me. And between that, so here comes the crazy thing. So my strength is our events, and they're planning the event and all the details that go, hand in hand. And we had a gala at that time in Rotary. So I came on as co-chair with Herman Dixon, and we co-chaired that event, and it was very successful, much like the gala, very dressed up affair. And I co-chaired that for a couple of years with Herman, and we had that probably up until 2017, 2018. or it could have been, at COVID that we
Right.
ended up not being able to have something. But it was just a fun event, just like you're doing, all of those details. But in the course of all of that, I became president of Rotary. And
Well, I'm going to ask you about that in a minute.
Yeah.
Kind of like another chapter of the conversation.
but I love these events. I can't wait to go. I didn't get to come to the Hope Gala last year.
Are you going this year?
I'm going this year, and I
Wonderful.
can't wait.
It's a
can't
very
wait. I wanna-
unique experience. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. So like the only strength, I'm not a fundraiser, but this is part of like what makes a good trick, finding your strengths and how can you use your strengths for the benefit of the club.
Right.
That's a great,
Right.
it's a great analysis of yourself. And on game day at the gala, from the moment it's done being set up, because I'm not the guy who's I'm not setting the table settings and
Right.
the centerpieces. That's really the jam for people who know how they want it aesthetically. But once the doors open, there's greeter duty. I'm on that. I have a backup. Then there's double checking the silent auction. Are you good? Do you need anything? What can we do better? Good to go. Then there's the itinerary and the agenda and keeping it on to the minute. Coordinating with the piano guys, coordinating with the MC, going into the kitchen in my tux saying, I don't know how to make steak. What would you like me to tell them the delay is? Because I've got a line of people waiting on steak right now. Like that kind of thing.
I do.
And that has turned out to be probably my strongest contribution to that event besides sponsoring. And I'm excited about it.
I can't wait to see you in action, because those are the kinds of things that I do at every event.
Nice.
And one of our members, Kevin Knowles, the mayor,
Yeah.
I hope he's there, because he's an observer.
Yeah.
And he, when he comes to events, he's observing what's happening in every aspect of the room.
Nice.
And he's said to me in the past, I love watching you in action. I love watching. You're so engaged.
Nice.
When there are events going on, so I'll be sitting back watching this year.
Cool, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I like that.
It's really entertaining. It's a great show. So you've been president. Back when you became president, were they still following the same model they do now, where there's vice president, president-elect, and then presidential year?
Yes,
It
and
was?
then past president.
Yeah, and then
So that's been in existence as long as I've been in Rotary, and probably before that. One thing we don't have now that we had back then was a stage. We had a whole stage in the front of the room where all of the officers and those the president, vice president, they all sat on a raised platform looking out over the whole room.
eating lunch.
Eating lunch, and then they had the podium where you got up to speak as president. So you addressed the whole club membership from that raised podium, and the speaker also sat up there. So
Why do you think that changed?
because I think that it separated the leadership from the rest of the club.
I think it's a good move.
I loved it. I loved the move because, the president pretty much still has a specific table where they sit, but they have a table of 8, and there are always 7 other people sitting with the president.
Yeah.
And those places can change. When it was
can.
a raised platform, it didn't change.
Oh, it was always the same,
It
right?
was always the treasurer, the secretary, the president, the vice president, the program chair, and the guest speaker. That's pretty much the order.
Before Tracy became president, I observed that table as the boss table. A bunch of bosses over there. There's a bunch of work getting done during the meeting. Just, it's just a
Yeah, the secretary sits there, the treasurer. There's always that paper
little hive of
stuff that's going on.
of business, and I never really wanted to sit there because they're working. Like there's work happening. But now as chief of staff, self-appointed chief of staff, I'm there to support her when I'm always like, do you need anything? Is there anything I can do for you? I now know how to adjust the volumes to the microphones, and just again, a behind the scenes sort of leadership on my part, but I'm there. Even if her voice cracks and gets too fatigued, I'm now ready to do community announcements or whatever she needs me to pick up on based on a script that she might have available for me. But I miss getting back out to our tables. I feel like I keep sitting there because I'm more anxious to support her.
Support her.
Yeah.
One of the things that I loved to do as president, so I'm going to just take a little, feeding off of what you said, going to other tables and sitting at other tables. One thing I loved to do before the meeting was to come down off that platform and go table to table and greet someone at each table, or say something to people that maybe I hadn't seen for 2 meetings or 3 meetings, or it was their first time back after having surgery or an illness, or something had happened in the community that was a positive thing, and we could go down and say something to them. But I loved being able, I think the greeter position just set me up to be able to go down and speak to people one-on-one and to call them by name.
Yeah.
And I love that. I think I only ever called one Rotarian by the wrong name my whole year as president. And when I did it, as soon as I called the name, I knew I was wrong. And I was like, oh my gosh, I just did that.
Yeah.
But I like that. I like being able to speak to people face to face. And I still like doing it. I still love sitting at different tables. That's another thing that people didn't do. As well as I do, that there are still tables in Rotary where specific people sit.
Yeah.
And sometimes you don't want to encroach on that table. But I like to mix it up. I like to sit all over the room because
I'm the same way. Before I became chief of staff, I was the same way. I was scooting around different tables, and you get into some of the best conversations. And one of the reasons why I wanted to start this podcast is you only get between 7 and 12 minutes or so before the president hits that bell. So you get these little micro conversations at the table, and you can never really connect with everybody the way you might want to.
Right.
And then our lives get so busy, and some people are retired and some people aren't. And I love this format because I'm getting to know you. I had no idea you were president. I figured you were involved for a long time, but it's interesting to hear how you were identified as a leader and somebody who probably could handle the tempo of being the president. That's really awesome. Tell me about what committees. I'm sure you've been on plenty of committees, but which committees do you feel like you were the most successful on?
Well, I went through all the chairs, so I sat on the board. As you come off as past president, you're still on the board. But I remained on the board of directors probably up until about 2 years ago, probably until the time I retired from working. I mean, I think I retired and failed, so I'm back to work again.
You failed at being retired?
I failed at being retired.
Gotcha.
So
okay.
I came back to work.
Okay, I get it.
And I'm just that type of person that has to be busy. I love to be involved in the community, and so I sat on special events committee, membership chair. Wait a minute, I was membership chair for a long time until I went out, just like that person Barbara that brought me into greeting. I had to find my replacement as the greeter before I could step away. I had to find my replacement as the co-chair for special event and step away. And then same thing with membership. Denise Phelps followed me as membership chair. And it was her idea to bring in the brand new Rotarians onto the membership committee, which I love because it brings all those new leaders or those new Rotarians into leadership positions or brings them onto committees to help us.
I remember being approached about that, and I would love to help develop a pathway for that to be smoother. When I was approached on that, I didn't know that was kind of the model or that's where you went to be involved. And it was almost like the tone in which they used was like, well, you can be on this committee and you can really learn about, and I'm like, no, I'm busy. I didn't want to, and it was because I didn't know enough.
Right.
And if you look at our calendar and how productive this club is, it's intimidating from a new member point of view.
There are so many things that the club does, and I think that until you get involved in some form or fashion, you don't understand all of what the committee does or what those committees mean. Club service, community service. They have a connotation with them that club is the club and community is the community. But still, there are so many avenues of service that are under those. One being foundation. I'm have been foundation co-chair, and that is asking the members to, make a contribution to the foundation, to the Rotary Foundation, to the annual fund, to Polio Plus.
I've tried to interrupt you 3 times because my other podcast is called Break It Down for Brackens. I don't want to let you get away without defining some of the terms that you've used. Okay, so let's go there. You mentioned special events committee. Is that like the bigger ones, like the golf tournament, the pickleball, and the gala?
Yes.
Is that what special events are defined as?
Yes, that's what I'm defining it as, because that committee is, golf, gala, pickleball now, and those all have chairs, and they all have committee members.
Yes. Okay. And then there's a committee to determine. Is that what you mean by that, or were you on all of the committees of those special events?
I have not been on pickleball. However, I did consult with Rob about pickleball to give him some suggestions at the very beginning, because that is my background. And so he came to me and asked me if we could sit down and have a conversation. And so my suggestion to him was, because it had never been done in this area, to look outside the area to the professionals for a pickleball national, office. And so I think they did go in that direction. I suggested a software to handle all that information, because when you have a lot of moving parts, you need that. And
I agree.
But I have not been on pickleball, so to speak. But I have done the gala. I have done golf. Okay,
now you mentioned the membership committee.
Right.
What is their goal as a committee and for membership?
Well, for membership, it's always to not only initiate the new Rotarian into Rotary, but also to look for different classifications of individuals in the community to come on board as Rotarians. So a lot of people don't know that we have classifications either. So mine happens to be healthcare. Yours probably happens to be industry or painting or whatever. I don't know what's on your Rotary tag.
My business.
Your business.
Right.
So there are physicians, there are lawyers, there are bankers, and all of those are different classifications for Rotary.
So it's okay. I had no idea that was
the
thing.
So we're looking for members that will come and fill some of those classifications. Maybe it's a CPA, maybe it's an attorney, but we also want people who want to become involved as Rotarians. And we're one of the largest clubs in the district for membership. And we're very proud of that as a club. And I think that shows through to brand new Rotarians. But one of the big things that I think has been, a plus for our club is to start up satellite clubs, where people who can't get away from work during the day can come out in the evening to a club that meets at 5 p.m. or 5:30 p.m. a couple of times a month, and opening a possible satellite club in the south end of Berkeley County.
Yeah.
All of those are things that there are people out there that want to become Rotary members and want to give back in some form or fashion or be involved. Not only is it good for the club, but one of the things, it's good for the members, because think of all of the interpersonal communications that you get to have with all of the Rotarians. It helps your business.
Sure, it does. Definitely does. So for the sake of what the membership committee does, it tries to fill the classifications. I remember it had that orientation.
They do.
They have an orientation. I went to that. And then what else are some of the responsibilities of that committee? It's okay if we've hit most of them.
No, I think that's pretty much all of them.
Right.
Is just to do that orientation and introduce the new members to other new members so that they can network. I think that's one of the things that membership does, is to allow these new individuals to network between themselves, make them feel comfortable as members when they're coming in.
I like that. Pete Mulford is scheduled for a podcast to discuss what the foundation is in detail.
Good.
You're co-chair, so I'm sure you're versed on that.
Well, I was co-chair.
Okay.
That has now moved to Buzz Poland and Fred Holliday.
Nice.
But I still kind of work behind the scenes to help Buzz and help Fred, because I was foundation, chair for a long time, and I'm still familiar with what the Paul Harris Fellowship is, what's every member every year, and that's a $100 gift from every member every year. And those can be made every time you pay your quarterly dues.
Right.
You can pay a $25 fee, and within a year you've paid $100
Towards it, yeah.
to, towards a Paul Harris, but also to international.
Paul Harris is the founder of Rotary. I can't let anything get by. Okay, so Paul Harris is the founder of Rotary. Now, when you donate money to the foundation, can you speak to that for a minute or two? What is the foundation? What does that do?
Well, the foundation is the fundraising arm for Rotary International, and there are different funds that your gifts can be designated toward. One of the things that our club focuses on is the annual fund, annual gifts, and Polio Plus. The Rotary International wants to, with the help of Bill Gates, wants to eradicate polio in the world. And the annual fund, a portion of that comes back to the club every 3 years. So whatever is raised comes back as a community grant. Those community grants then, through our club, we turn around then and use those to support our community.
If I understand it correctly, let's say we raise $10,000 in a year.
Right.
Donated to the foundation.
The annual fund.
The annual fund. Now, that money goes towards running Rotary, or it goes towards whatever Rotary is focusing on?
It goes toward whatever Rotary International is focusing on. It's the 7 pillars, okay. I believe they're called.
Okay. And then if the club meets a certain criteria of donation, is that what you're saying?
No, every 3 years, whatever the club raises.
Okay, whatever it raises.
A third of that comes back
to the club. Hypothetically, how many years?
Every 3.
So 3 years down the road, we would get, from that particular year, $3,300 back.
Yes.
Cool.
Or if we raise $30,000, in 3 years, we would get $10,000 back.
And then that $10,000 that we get back, we put towards special events, or do we put it towards community grants?
It's usually toward community grants now.
Oh, all right.
That's the model that we've adopted, is that there's a grant process, and that organizations can apply for the grants, and then the grant committee decides. It used to be that the president would choose what community organizations the grant funds were going to be used toward, or it would be a special project. Maybe it was building a pavilion at Poorhouse Farm,
right, or
building a pavilion at War Memorial Park, which we have in the past. And so the president used to have a lot of say in what those funds went toward.
But now there's a
grant process.
Yes.
Which is a lot more formal, and it's these changes are really good for a large club.
Yeah, Kim Toll was on, and she's in charge of grants now,
Yes.
I think, and I picked her brain pretty good. I ask questions that are sometimes off track, and it shows how little I know about what a committee does.
But
and
you're learning all at the same time.
Exactly. It's like that's what I'm trying to learn it, and I'm really excited that she straightened me out, because kind of how I thought the process was, it was not how it was. Let's move towards what's your favorite program or initiative that you want to bring attention to that our club does? And I know we do so many, but which one is the nearest and dearest to your heart?
Wow. I think I probably didn't prepare a response to that.
Well, what if there was one that you would like to see come back to life that maybe you saw in the beginning that you liked and it doesn't exist anymore? Or, I mean, what I'm hearing from every guest so far is that everybody is so happy with what the club's currently doing, which is the direction of the club, the organization of the club, and the production. So,
well, and I love that every program chair, vice president of programs, always brings a different. They always have a different point of view. Some clubs,
and to be clear, the program chair is the one that helps create the speakers at lunch.
They're the person who finds the speakers for lunch. And sometimes in other clubs, that's done by committee, maybe a committee of 3 people, and they split up the year, and they're responsible for 3 months of programming. But we've always had one individual person. And believe it or not, the programs, there are people lined up usually to give programs. I can't say there's one over another. I love student guest. I love hearing what the students have to say when they come.
Chris, it's possible I'm using the wrong terminology then. If a program is the presentation that's done at lunch, what do we call pancakes for polio or the casino canal cleanup?
Those are community service projects.
I'm going to change my language then. So then what community service project
do I love the most?
Yes.
Okay.
I have to change my whole scripting now.
That's a lot easier to answer.
I'm so sorry. See, that's the thing. I'm literally using the wrong word as program when it should be community service project.
Yeah. Gosh, there are so many. Pancakes for Polio, I've been co-chair of that multiple times.
That's Memorial Day, correct?
That's Memorial Day. So I guess I have to say committed to that because we raise funds and they're sent directly to International to support the polio eradication. So I think that's probably one of the longest standing. I love volunteering.
Hold on, before we move on, how about around February or March, you come back on the podcast with you or co-chair or whomever.
Yeah, that darn Pam Wagner, wherever she is. I'm going to bring her back with me.
Yeah, and I would love for you guys to talk it and hype it up.
Right.
Why do we need volunteers? What do the volunteers do? How many do we serve? All those sort of things. I would like that to be its own episode where it can be shared.
Right.
So then whoever's in charge of sharing things on social media can say, oh, that's coming up. Let's share that episode.
Right. I'd love to do that. Gail Moxley's, co-chaired that with me this year. She worked behind the scenes, but Tim, got involved with that. And so, yeah, I'd love to do that.
Okay. But so that's the Pancakes for Polio.
Pancakes for Polio.
What's another one?
And that's Memorial Day at War Memorial Park, where we serve the community, over 500 people, for breakfast.
Right.
Pancakes, sausage gravy, all that good stuff.
It is. What's another project that you put your heart and soul behind?
Oh my gosh. Well, in recent years, probably volunteering at Berkeley County Youth Fair.
I was going to say that
on that Saturday when all of the Rotarians get together and we serve food from the concession stands. That's a fun thing. I love it all. I love
again.
Being
Hold
involved.
on a second. Is that the one where we go to the fairgrounds and we come into like a cafeteria and there's a long row of Rotarians serving food, or is that a different event?
No, that's similar to that, but we come into the kitchen where there's a grill, and there are ovens, and there are hot plates, and there are hot, and it's kind of warm because it's summer.
Right.
And that's the first Saturday of August, or first Saturday of the youth fair, Berkeley County Youth Fair. It's always the second week of August or first week of August. I can't remember exactly. But another opportunity where someone says to you, your job today is to put the hot dogs in the buns, or your job is to grill the hamburgers, or your job is to do fries. And we serve people from the concession stand. Someone takes money.
Okay. I missed that one, but there was one, I want to say maybe it was last fall. Yeah, because they were selling mums. It's Arts and Crafts Festival. I feel like Rotary was in...
Apple Harvest.
Oh, is that what that was?
Apple Harvest. Pancake breakfast.
No, they were inside. It was a pit.
You're right.
That's right.
It's in a building at the Berkeley County Youth Fair grounds.
Yeah.
And that'll be coming up.
Right.
So you can do that in October. So if this podcast goes up before October, you can join us.
It's overwhelming, though, how many things we do.
Right.
Golly. Like, I would just love to see what the calendar looks like. And then people who've been members for a long time, and I know this would be a heavy lift and probably a long conversation. I almost want to have like a brag sheet. What have we done? Mm-hmm. In 20 years, how have we moved the needle for the community? And the people who've been around that long, like, okay, we built a pavilion here. We did pathways here. We put benches in here. We helped this organization with this sustainable program.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I really want to know how proud I should be being a part of this organization.
That would be fantastic. I don't know where you would have to go to get that information, but you could interview enough Rotarians to find out all of that information.
I think once this podcast becomes a success, they'll be interested to come on and talk about the categories. Mm-hmm. I can interview up to 4 people at the same time.
Nice.
It would be cool just to hear some of the war stories about how they got things done. It would be great
because we sometimes call the older Rotarians old timers.
Yeah. But
they have a lot of information and value to still add to the club.
Oh, certainly.
Although they don't want to be president and don't want to hold an office or don't want to be chairman of a committee, they still have a lot of history. Mm-hmm. And they've been in Rotary a long time. As you know, sometimes, the greeter will say the anniversary date of a member.
That's right.
And they've been members for 30 years or 40 years. Those, we used to do a 5-minute from the floor when I was president and a little after that, where you would just have 5 minutes to tell what your contribution to Rotary had been in the past.
Well, that's nice.
And we'd have a new member and an older member, a longer-term member. Mm-hmm. And you got to hear from them. So it was a little like a club bio, but it wasn't always the newest members that were giving those bios.
I got it.
So, yeah, I'd love to see a podcast of that.
Cool. Well, one of the ways I like to wrap up the conversation is a call to action. What would you like? I mean, everybody keeps saying that the club's doing so well, it's hard to have something to build onto, but why is it important to volunteer for X? Why is it important to bring more attention to this? What is your choice that you want to have a call to action right now? Anybody listening, whether it's to join the club or to get involved in a committee or to donate to foundation, this is your chance, Chris, to build excitement or energy.
One thing I would say is that brand new leaders that are coming out of a leadership, maybe Leadership Berkeley, Leadership Jefferson, get involved, come to a Rotary meeting, network, bring that experience that you have and network with the individuals that are at Rotary. Find your niche, find something that's important to you, and then provide that to other individuals that are in the club.
Share your
I'd love
expertise.
to see that. Share your expertise. Be a mentor. One of the things that I love about Rotary is being able to mentor the younger members that are coming in. As an older member, as a more tenured member now, and all of the history that I have with Rotary, I love seeing the newer members coming up through the chairs, as we call it, becoming president, vice president, program chair. I love seeing them becoming involved and growing the club, but also in the meantime being there to support them as a mentor, as a previous, chair or president, I'm calling it, chair of something or president of the club.
Yeah, I'm a appointed chair of public image.
I love it.
Which is why I'm doing this.
And this is spectacular because we need this. As a club, we need to tell people what we're doing in the community, what kind of service we're providing. It's the best kept secret. Rotary is the best kept secret. If you're not a Rotarian, you should be.
I love that. I'm going to finish this by saying, Chris, you are a role model.
Oh, thank you.
You do set an example for motivated advocacy. You really do. For whatever passion you have to help in the community, if Rotary is doing it, or if Rotary is not, you could always join and suggest that we look at something like that through the grants committee. But you are a great role model in the club. So thank you for being one of those leaders.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. I always want to come with purpose and passion for the organization.
It's a great conversation. Thank you, Chris.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.